everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily and this is Lively Language. Today I want to talk about something that is really important to me as a teacher, but I feel like we don't really give it enough credit as it's due for maintaining a good classroom, and that is classroom management. I don't care what kind of cool game or innovative methodology you're doing. If you don't have good classroom management, it will fail and you will be miserable. So I'm here today to give you some of my favorite tips and tricks to help you out in your classroom so that you don't end up crying alone in the bathroom like me my first year of teaching. Now this video is going to be mainly for people who are auxiliares, language assistants, specialists, or co-teachers, people who don't have their own classroom and who might see lots of different students during the week, because if you have your own classroom, then obviously this is going to look a little bit different. Okay, so my first tip is to learn their names. Now, if you're an auxiliary like me, or if you are a specialist, you may be seeing over 100 or 150 students every week like I do, and it can be really difficult to learn their names. So the first thing that I recommend that you do is make little seating charts for when you walk into a new classroom. You can refer back to your seating chart and to see who's sitting there. What I also like to do is have the students introduce themselves to me multiple times. So what I like to do is have them introduce themselves, maybe talk with the partner about a prompt, and then share with the class their name and their favorite animal, and the next week it can be their name and their favorite music or something like that. And this is just a great way for you to learn their names, and it also gets them really more comfortable speaking in public. And I think it's really important to learn their names because it shows that you respect them as people and as students. But it also is a lot easier to control a classroom when you know their names, and when the person who's acting out, you can actually say, "Hey, Sally, stop doing that," instead of just saying, you over there, stop. It's just a lot easier to control that way. So definitely learn their names. My second tip is to have some kind of attention-getting signal. This can be a call and response. For example, there are tons of these on Pinterest. You can find any of them. There are so many different examples. You could say for a younger primary classroom something like macaroni and cheese, and everybody has to freeze and say, "Everybody freeze," and they put their hands on their head or something like that. There are literally tons of these. I'll put the link below to some of my favorites on my Pinterest board. You can also do a nonverbal signal, which is really great. For example, you can have a little triangle or some kind of sound-making gadget where if they hear that sound, they have to put their hands on their head or they have to fold their hands, because we all know primary kids can go crazy with their hands. And also for a high school class, for example, you could do something like stand in a specific part of the room with your hand up and wait until they're quiet. Or you could do a simple countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and when you get down to 1, they need to be quiet. These are so easy and they're so effective, and it's just so much better to do one thing instead of having to like shush people all the time, which can get really time consuming and frustrating. My third classroom management tip is Class Dojo. I love Class Dojo. It is an amazing interactive online website that you can set up for your class, and you can do it with individuals and put their individual names, or you could also do it with teams or even by classes. And what it does is basically it makes little sounds to give points if you want to reward behavior, and it also makes terrible sounds to take away points if you don't want to reward that behavior. So what I like to do is have my students in teams, and the first team sitting down and quiet gets a point. You can even project this on the board. It comes with cute little monsters. It is so interactive and so thorough. You can even talk with parents on it, and it's very complex, so you can use it in any way that you see fit for your classroom, and it's just a really great, effective tool. Another thing I like to do is have voice level charts, to have some kind of visual to remind the students of where their voices should be during that activity. So if you're doing something really interactive, I think it's important that they know that they should be either whispering or talking at a group level. So there's lots of different voice level charts that you can print out and move a little clothespin to show that they are, right now they're talking at level 5 and they should be talking at level 3. Another thing I like to do is draw on the board different visuals that signal when an activity is getting out of hand. So one thing I like to do is draw a big bomb on the board. If you saw my last video, you know I like bombs. But what I do is I draw a big bomb on the board with a really long wick. And as the students are talking, when they're not supposed to be talking, I just erase the wick. I don't have to say anything. I don't have to look at anyone. I just sit there and erase the wick. And they know that if the wick gets all the way down to the bomb, it means it explodes, and that means that we have to stop our activity and have a few minutes in silence, or we have to go back to the classroom or something. If we're doing something fun, it has to stop. Another way to do it is to draw a circle and to color in the circle. And if the circle is all the way colored in, we have to stop, or we lose 5 minutes of recess or some kind of consequence. And I think just having them see it visually helps them kind of understand how serious the problem is, or how loud and annoying that they are really being. My next tip is to keep it positive. I know that it's really hard to not focus on students who are calling out your attention and need to be redirected, but I found that it is so much better to call out the students who are doing the expectation and to praise them in front of the class, especially if it's young primary and upper primary. It is so effective for, instead of saying, hey, you need to stop that, to say instead, wow, everybody, look at Maria. Look at how awesome Maria is being. She's sitting, she's ready, she's got her pencil, great job, Maria. And I will guarantee you, the minute you say that, all of your students will sit up straight and try to be the perfect students, because they want that positive reinforcement as well, and that positive attention from you. So I challenge you to try to put things in a more positive tone, and if you can, even if there's a student that is consistently off task, the minute that they are on task, just say, hey, wow, you're on task. Awesome, great job. You can over-exaggerate. You are doing amazing. You're the best student ever. And I think that kind of sets a better tone for the classroom than to always be focusing on the negative. My last and final point is to have clear expectations and be consistent with those expectations. So whatever rule that you've put in place, you need to have a consequence if that rule is not being followed. And I think it's very important that we explicitly teach what will happen if you do not follow our class expectations. And this takes the pressure off of you a little bit, because all of the students know the expectations, they know the consequences, so that it takes away from you the emotional energy of having to punish a student or having to call them out, because basically they decide, are you following the expectation? You know the consequence. It means you will be sent out of the room, or go to the principal's office or whatever. But you need to be very consistent with those expectations, because if you just say that you'll send someone to the principal's office and then you never do, the students really pick up on that, and I think that they know that they can kind of get away with things in your class. So I challenge you from the very beginning, the minute that things start getting out of hand, and you've already given them a warning, I would challenge you to be very consistent and to actually implement the consequence once or twice, sending a kid out of the room or taking out 5 minutes of recess. And once you do that like 2 times maximum, they will understand that they can't goof off in your class anymore, because you really are serious about what you say. So that's just another tip. I think that's the most fundamental thing, is to be very consistent, and whatever you say, actually do it. So those are my top tips and tricks for classroom management. I could literally sit here and talk about classroom management all day long, because I'm so passionate about it, but I'm not going to do that. This is the end of the video. So please just comment below, make sure to like the video and subscribe and all of that good stuff, and I'll see you next time.